Good afternoon and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus. So we've had a bit of progress on my the guy that wanted to debate me, Tarook. So everything that I said, he went, no, it's all wrong. Those Muslims are the wrong Muslims. They're actually wrong and evil and bad and they're infidels. The correct Muslims are the Sunni Salafist Muslims. And I thought, I'm sure I actually predicted that you were going to do this. I quote myself in saying, when you're done discussing with me and you can't answer any of the things that I put forward, you will then turn on other Muslims and blame them. The reason you'll do this is because you cannot accept responsibility yourself, because if you come in the spirit of Allah and you're wrong, that means you are saying Allah is wrong and that makes you an infidel. That's exactly what we see. So fine, okay, then I said to Tarook, tell me who your authority is. Give me the address for that authority. I will use only that authority in my debate with you and I will still absolutely smush you because it's going to be easy for me. And sure enough, he said, oh, I'm going to list it now. He didn't list it. I have still yet to see what this list is. So I got on Google and I thought, well, I don't need his help here. I can find it for myself. So I looked it up and sure enough, the Sunni Salafist Muslims do have their own authority, but they consider themselves to be a revolutionary splinter movement of Islam. And they still use the same Quran. So that means all the notes that I referred to in my previous messages to him, which is this is not all my notes. This is just the ones I used to write my previous videos to him. These are all still 100% correct. And everything that I said before is 100% correct. And the most interesting thing that I found out is this guy is a big believer in Sharia, Islamic law. So what that means is, even though the things we're arguing about, he denies and he says I'm lying about, when we look at Sharia law, and we're going to do that in just a second, we can see Sharia law says holy jihad is a main function of Islam. You can't be a Sunni Salafist Muslim who believes in Allah unless you are in a holy jihad or you're contributing towards a holy jihad. Which is exactly what I said, and he disagreed. He said, no, you can only attack people when they attack you, as in a Western defensive war. But that is not what the Sunni Salafists think a holy jihad is, so he's wrong about that. I said child marriage should be illegal. Having sex with your family members should be illegal. And he said that isn't a thing that he does in Islam, but we see again in Sharia, child marriage and actually sexual slavery and prostitution of children and prisoners of war through the holy jihad is not only permitted but encouraged. It's encouraged. And then we get to the part about non-believers and religious discrimination. Now there's a big section on how religious discrimination is a function of the holy jihad. Therefore it is the cause of Allah and something all Muslims must participate in. So I changed my mind about this guy. I don't actually think this guy has an honest heart at all. His entire goal is to cover up the sins of his brothers. But he has inadvertently led me towards the stone tablet, if you like, of Sunni Salafist beliefs. And I can read them. We can all go on the internet right now and read what they believe. And we can see every single word that I previously said from my notes is 100% accurate of the words of Allah on what Muslims believe today. Even his lot, the Sunni Salafist Muslims. So this is going to be fun. Without further ado, let's have a look at the Sharia, which he thinks is the word of Allah, which he was previously willing to deny and say, I wrote. He said, it was my lies. I made this up. So let's have a look. So what does it say? The Salafi movement, or Salafism, is a revival movement within Sunni Islam, which was formed as a socio-religious movement during the late 19th century. So it's not old, it's quite new, and has remained influential in the Islamic world for over a century. That's 100 years, it's not long. The name Salafiyah is a self-designation that they made up themselves to call for an alleged return to the traditions of the pious predecessors. So that's Islam, Muhammad and his lot. So the first three generations of Muslims, the Islamic prophet Muhammad and the Sahaba, his companions, and then the Tabi'in, the third generation, and the Tabi'il, who are his associates. Salafi Muslims oppose religious innovation and support the implementation of Sharia, which we're going to go through, in its approach to politics. Like I said, it isn't about God, it's about politics. The Salaf movement is sometimes divided by Western academics and journalists into three categories: the purists, the activists, and the jihadis. So there you have it. Salafist Muslims, even though they deny it, are all about the Holy Jihad, and it isn't a defensive action, as we know from Allah's writings. The Holy Jihad is an offensive war against the non-believers. Isn't that a big surprise? Isn't that so interesting that when we look online for the sources these guys use, you can't find a copy of it? I.e., they are hiding the sins of their brothers and covering up the sins of their religion. That's the only reason why there wouldn't be a publicly available official document for us to criticise, because as we know, they're terrified of Westerners criticising them, and the reason is because it creates apostasy in their own people. When their own people recognise and realise and learn what their true beliefs are, they flock away and they leave. That's why I've got so many ex-Muslims on my channel who don't comment because they don't want to be punished, but they privately message me and tell me that they are secretly well away from Islam. They never had any faith in Allah, and in fact most of them are actually turning to Christ, and they're more than happy with that. So anyway, let's have a little bit more look in detail at what we can find. Even though they try and hide it from us, what do Salafist Sunnis believe? So as we know, Sharia is a body of religious law that forms part of the Islamic tradition based on the scriptures of Islam, particularly the Quran and Hadith. In Arabic, the term Sharia refers to God's immutable divine law that is contrasted with fiqh, I can't say that, which refers to its interpretations. Over time, this means Muslims are not allowed to change this law or interpret it in any other way apart from the pure words from the Quran and the Hadith, because remember, they only apply what Muhammad and his little friends and his band of warriors said. So let's have a look at what we can find about Sharia online. We'll ignore those first 6 sources because they're Western sources, even though they're the most prominent ones. What we need is an actual list that is not written by Westerners. So let's have a look at the Sharia Wiki Islam article. Sharia in Islamic law. So the first thing you have is lots and lots of references telling you that musical instruments, different clothing, artworks, the languages of different cultures, different countries, different colours of people, races, and everything that is not haram or everything that is haram that is prevented. And then we hear the things that are not prevented, i.e. domestic violence, you're allowed to beat your many wives, gender disparity, you're allowed to swap genders, polygamy, you're allowed to have many wives, you don't have to have just one, but your wife's only allowed to have one husband each, and you're allowed to lie to them so that you can keep them from one another in different homes. You're allowed to do child marriage, which is defined as a child is defined as a child who hasn't bled or had hairs on their genital areas yet. You can have religious discrimination because this is a part of the Holy Jihad. Slavery and sexual slavery, defined as concubinage, is allowed and actually encouraged. And the most important of the features of the Sharia is the Holy Jihad, the end times genocidal prophecy that Allah makes throughout the Quran in every single book, which is defined as a holy jihad, which is an offensive action, a war against all non-believers, so that they can complete his prophecy and create the paradise which they will eventually go to. So I think we've seen enough here. Now, obviously, this guy is not going to just bow down because I've made a few videos, and I think it's clear that what he is searching for is not truth. He's not interested in what the truth really is. What he is interested in doing is not being wrong. It's an arrogance battle for him. That's why he wants to debate me, so he can go, yes, I've been victorious over the infidel. Whereas I am trying to display truth to him. I thought we were both heading towards the same truth and we would cross over and agree at that point. But he doesn't want to agree at that point. If I find a truth, he's going to veer away from it. And if I display openly a truth which is agreed, he's then going to criticise me so that he can cover up the sins of his brothers and preach up his religion, as is the commands of Allah. So in conclusion, we find out this guy isn't what I thought he was, what he presented himself as to begin with, a nice, decent, peace-loving guy. He's a Muslim. He does believe that all non-believers should be killed in a holy jihad, which is commanded by Allah, as we know, because his own authority, which he said to me he listens to, that directs his conception of Islam and his interpretation of Quran verses, is led by Sharia, which we just saw there, includes child prostitution, polygamy, having many wives, lying to them so that you can separate one from the other, and more importantly, religious discrimination in service of Allah's holy jihad, which, as we know, is not a defensive action. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a holy jihad. It would just be called defensive war, like everyone else has. No, a holy jihad means, and we know this because it's written in the Quran of the Muslims, which he himself agrees, this is the Quran here, the Arabic one. Whether you're a Salafist, a Sunni, whether you are a Shia, whether you are an Alawite, it doesn't matter what colour or creed of Muslim you are, there's only one Quran. And in this Quran, Allah tells us his holy jihad is not defensive. A holy jihad is sending parties of warriors into other countries in order to rub out the worship of all other gods. All other faiths and religions and cultures must be eliminated so that Allah can return ownership of East and West to his faithful Muslims and create paradise by killing everyone who isn't obedient to him. That's a holy jihad, and that's what this guy believes, but he can't sincerely admit this because the truth would condemn him as an evil, immoral man, like I said originally. So my work here is done. There's no point in me debating this guy because he's already given me the answers. He believes in the holy jihad. He believes that kill all non-believers is true. Even though he initially said he doesn't think that Allah says that, we have seen conclusively now throughout the Quran, throughout the Hadiths, and in Sharia, which he is beholden to, all of these sources administrated by his religious authority, not mine, his religious authority, they all agree. Sharia, holy jihad, kill all non-believers. Otherwise, you're not a real Muslim. So that's the point proven. So that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. And just keep in mind when this guy comes back with his false arguments and lies. Originally, when I said, do you believe all non-believers should be killed? His answer was no, because Allah doesn't say that. So now we've conclusively seen that Allah does say that, so he was lying to me to cover up the sins of his religion.